How you doing, folks? Adam Godin, and I want to talk to a very important issue to me, and ethics, and not just ethics, but way of life, and phenomenology, and epistemology, and theory of knowledge, and theory of the nature of essence and being. I'll just start out by saying that every day we have choices. We have choices in our life. We have right choices. It may seem like an inconsequential choice. Things like brushing your teeth twice, things like eating, making sure you have enough water in your system. These are all important things that we listen to our body. And ultimately, some people would say the meaning of life is to take care of your body. Your body is your temple, it's your sacred temple. You are being sacred and being virtuous and being more aligned with the divine by taking care of yourself. And I want to talk to you about how some people would think that human nature is evil, so to speak. And you may not believe in evil. I believe in evil. I think there is a war of evil and good throughout the cosmos. And so there's two schools of thought that human nature is intrinsically evil, human nature is intrinsically good. And these two schools of thought really conflict. They're really polar opposites. And no matter which side you believe, and depending on which side you believe, it completely changes your attitude towards life and everything about life, and it changes your paradigm. So people who are talking to each other who aren't in the same page in that regard, they don't understand each other. They have a resentment. They are completely. If it was astrology, they'd be inconjunct. There's no. I mean, no disrespect to inconjunct. One of my best friends sitting next to me is a Gemini rising, and we love her. So anyway, um the point is that there are two sectors of our society, good and evil. And evil is a trickster. It tries to trick you into believing certain things. And it lies to you. It lies to you. Not when I say you, I mean we. It lies to us. It lies to me. I'm not perfect. So, you know how they say there's an angel on the right, the devil on the left, whatever, there is some truth to that they're under constant demonic attack. And you may think that sometimes that you have these thoughts, and it almost seems like this is like inserted thoughts. Like, where does this thought come from? It's intrusive thought, but you have to realize that not all of these thoughts are our thoughts. I mean, where do the thoughts come from? They don't stem from us necessarily all the time. That some thoughts come to us, they pass, and to not identify with these thoughts. Because when you identify with these thoughts, then it creates a egotistic clash between the unconscious superego and ego, where we identify with something that is not stemming from us in our essence. So going back to human nature, that with these thoughts passing by, that where are these coming from? And so maybe you have a thought that is evil, and I've had this before too. I've had a thought that's like evil. How I think that it seems like this is an evil thought. Why do I have this thought? And it's not identify with this thought, and it does not dictate our human nature, and that we do not identify with their thoughts and that they're distinct. And so where are they coming from? We, like I said, there's demonic attack and there's technology. And I don't want to get too lost in the woods, but I'm not saying I know this for fact. I mean, how do I know? But there is, I believe, technology that can insert thoughts into our brains. Nanotechnology that emits certain frequencies that change our brainwaves remotely and from satellites to outer space. This is all possible. This is all possible. And so you may believe whatever you may believe, and I respect that. And so I'm not going to claim to be this condescending know-it-all and say, oh well, you didn't know that, or I'm be pompous that these are my beliefs and I'm right and you're wrong, because that's not what truth is about. Debating is about debating and getting to that common ground and finding that truth mutually. So an argument has been negative connotations in this society, but what is an argument? An argument is using your logic and using your reasons and your rationale to come to truth, to come to which side is more reasonable, which side is more rational. So going back to the thoughts, these intrusive thoughts. Now, is it possible if human beings have this technology to influence our thoughts and change our brainwaves, which is there is documented evidence of this. This is not speculation. There's patents. You can look up yourself. There's patents for nanotechnology committed for brainwaves. There's people that have come out, whistleblowers in the military complex. And like I said, I don't want to get too lost in the woods, but this technology exists. So if that technology exists, let's say there are supernatural beings, demons. Okay, what if say are other dimensions, interdimensional beings? If humans have that technology, what are demons capable of? So are these thoughts inserted to us when we have these negative thoughts, and I think they make us suppressed when think, oh, I can't do this, I can't do this. Is that really your thoughts, or is that something passing by? Is it someone speaking towards you, and you're just channeling what's being under attack. So I'm always grounded, and you can always be grounded. The power of the Holy Spirit. When I say that, I don't mean that with any religious connotations. The Holy Spirit illuminates before I do every healing. I invoke the Holy Spirit. The Holy Spirit illuminates the truth for me, and they tend to say I'm spot on. So I haven't said anyone that I haven't had anyone who said I was wrong yet. So so and is that me doing it? Yeah, and I take some credit. Part of me is me doing it when I'm channeling information from the divine, but it's channeling it through me. It's almost like someone's whispering in my ear. I'm just reciting what I'm hearing in my own words. That I take no credit for what I'm saying. I take no credit for what I'm saying right now. I'm not even thinking what I'm saying. I'm just speaking to you. I'm just speaking my mind. And so I want to let you know that there is a right and wrong, and that we trick ourselves with our logic and our rationale, like these voices, like these thought impulses, that we have certain compulsions and desires, and we're all human nature. It's human nature. We're all human beings. So it's natural, it's normal to have these compulsions, and that we're built as compulsions. Human beings are meant to be imperfect so we can transcend them and self-growth. We're here to grow. We're here to grow. I like to say, believe what you want about Lucifer and the truth of that, but I like to believe this is Lucifer's world. We're protected by good. At the same time, there is good and evil. So people should not fear the end of the world, mandatory vaccines, tanks rolling down the street. I'm like I said, I'm not. These are just rumblings that I've heard from certain people. I talk to a lot of people, and people are genuinely afraid of this. But like I said, praxis is different than theory. Okay, so what I mean by that is that praxis means the actual application of a thought, the implementation of a thought, the practice. They're kind of interchangeable in some ways. But if you want to sound smart, you say praxis, like me. So just kidding. But so what I'm saying is that even if there's this, all this evidence that adds up to doomsday, the government's gonna, be dependent on the government. Everything's gonna fundamentally change. World's gonna collapse. There's gonna be no money. I mean, even if this is a plan, we can't predict the future. We can't anticipate the future. It's balanced by good, is what I'm saying. It's balanced by good. Good has an influence as much as evil. And so when I say about good and evil, I don't mean in a religious context. And you can believe what you want. I'm not trying to proselytize you. I'm not trying to tell you how to think, but based on my life experience, this is what I believe to be most true. And so that's what it means to be a critical thinker, that we can never make assumptions and say things are absolutely true based on certain circumstantial evidence or based on our observations. So we have observations which become an inference. We observe things and we infer based on that. And based on our inference, we make assumptions. That's how most people think, because most people don't have critical thinking skills. But we have to think from all perspectives. Is there another way of looking at this? Who benefits from believing this? What does this mean? How is the linguistics of the assumption change the meaning of the whole? So there's so many things to understand and so many things to question our reality, and that like I said, based on life experiences, we can say what we believe to be most true in terms of critical thinking. But in terms of right and wrong, I feel like there's an effort to make us morally relativist. And what I mean by that is that I believe, and if you read Immanuel Kant, Immanuel Kant was a brilliant philosopher, but I believe that there is objectively wrong things, which is a deontological approach, and there is a consequential approach to ethics, which is a teleological approach. So what that means is that there's certain duties as human beings that we do, and so one of the maxims of Kant is that do what you would wish to be a universal law, which means that we have certain duties and there's certain objective wrong. Look at this dog, so that's kind of cute, but he's being restrained. But there's certain objective wrongs. For example, thou shalt not kill. Okay, so thou shalt not kill. So is there any context which killing is right? So we can reason that, okay, well, maybe we get kill this. Maybe it's the death penalty, right? So we can kill this to punish them. But thou shalt not kill. Instead of thinking that murder is wrong, and I'm not using the death penalty as a political, I'm just, interpret that however you want, and we are all have our own opinions. But all I'm saying is that there's ways of interpreting reality and morals and ethics and how we respond to things. We can reason that, oh, if this person was better off dead, then think about this. But is it really, it's objectively wrong to wish death on someone. And that should be a universal law. The maxims that we should make should be a universal law. So I was thinking that, let's say a situation that I was surrounded by these, this angry mob. Some of them had, weapons and trying to break in my house, and I knew it was inevitable capture or death. would I choose to take my life? And I don't even like to bring that up, but just for the sake of philosophy and a thought experiment, that what would be a better moral idea? To take my life to escape potential torture or death, or understanding that killing even yourself is objectively invalid. I mean, when I say objectively wrong, I don't mean morally wrong. Objectively wrong in terms of universal law. Objectively is not in alliance with universal law. That I would not kill myself because I believe that killing is objectively invalid to society. And there's nothing morally wrong with taking your life. People are in pain. People are in pain. They don't know any way. So I don't mean to be harsh in that way. Suicide is a serious thing, and there's nothing morally wrong when someone takes their life. They're not doing it selfishly. They can't stand the pain, which is very understandable. All I'm saying is that if I had a choice, I have an inevitable capture, I would not choose to take my life because I believe that objectively it's an invalid choice to take my life. So, um, all I'm saying is that it's just to elaborate. In many ways, similar to how Christians would not revoke their faith in Jesus and would be eaten in the pits by the lions. They knew it was objectively wrong to renounce their faith, even though they knew the consequences of revoking Christ would save their lives. They refused because they believed that was objectively wrong. So what I'm saying is, in ancient Greece, I'll just give you a little history lesson. I don't know if you've ever heard the Ring of Gyges, which is a phenomenal classic story that so much of Greek philosophy and way of life has influenced modern society. Look at Congress, Senate, the Greeks created democracy. Greek ideals we still use to this day. The Greeks have laid the foundation of Western culture. There would not be the United States or any country as you know without the ancient Greeks. So in ancient Greek time, there was Socrates, right? And Socrates, his big thing was, "I am the wisest man alive. For I know one thing, that I know nothing," which is such an amazing, wise way of looking at things. And in terms of critical thinking, it really is the foundation of what it means to be a critical thinker. That we don't know anything, and under that pretense, we explain what is most true. And so it takes an intellectual humility to admit that everything we say can be wrong, and that intellectual honesty is what we need in society. That we can't be afraid of being wrong. Being wrong is a good thing. We're supposed to be wrong because we're human beings. Because when we admit we're wrong, we help other people change, not just ourselves. So that intellectual honesty is huge, and that back in Socrates' time, like I said, I am the wise man, know nothing. So the Oracle of Delphi, one of the, they actually allegedly was use psychedelic fumes to have their prophecy, prophetic messages. So the Oracle of Delphi would have responses to certain historical figures, and what they were these women behind this tomb, I guess you could say. I mean, tomb's not the right word. In times a barrier, and they would exchange. They would ask information to the Oracle. They would travel far distance to the Oracle, and they would ask questions. The Oracle would give responses. I guess they could be the archetypal psychics that we have to this day, and well, except the difference is that they were getting stoned. Apparently, I mean, I went to this one lecture and they were explaining this, and they said they'd gotten stoned. And I've never heard a scholar refer to the oracles being stoned, but I mean, it really is a great reference, like boy. So anyway, so the point is that, I mean, they said that Socrates is the wisest man, and the oracle had a lot of influence back then. I don't want to say power, but a lot of influence. Very high ranking people would ask the information. So, um, I said Socrates is the wisest man for that exact reason. So, and more obviously he had other philosophical ideals. So, and Socrates is unique that there's very few writings left of him. That he was more of an oral philosopher. He was more of an orator. He was not a writer necessarily. Of course, there was the Apology of Socrates, where there's the literature, the walkthrough of how he died, because that just goes to show what I mean by objectively wrong. Socrates refused to revoke what he was saying because he knew that was objectively wrong. And so he didn't care what the consequence. He would rather die because he knew it was objectively right what he was saying. And honestly, he was probably, he lived a brilliant life. He lived a great life. He lived to be old and I believe in his 70s, and that's very long for someone in the ancient times. And God bless him because he's changed the world. And his student Plato, extremely influential. He has many writings that survive to this day. The accounts of Atlantis and et cetera, et cetera. Just classic literature that's shaped the Western civilization. And of course, Plato taught Aristotle. When Plato and Aristotle are very different, the way they interpret feminology of the world. and epistemologically. So, um, and then of course Aristotle going on to teach Alexander, who would conquer all the known world, and except he made a mistake of keep going, and he wanted to keep going in Afghanistan, and unfortunately he died of some fever or some wound. So that just goes to the hubris of humankind. The hubris. Alexander the Great is a perfect example of the hubris of mankind. That he started to believe he was a god. He won every battle. He started to believe he was a god. So he pushed his limits. Was it really feasible at that point to keep going, to keep fighting, to conquer India? No, it wasn't feasible at that point. He should have just turned back. He should have just established his city-states, established his Hellenistic culture, and called it a day, right? Throw the Ottomans back, walk down the red carpet, go back to his palace, make Macedonia the capital of the world. But he did. It was a hubris. He believed he was more than he was. He kept going because he was a god, right? So in the same way that humans have hubris, that they think that they know things, they think that they know things that are best for them, but we don't know anything, and that's what we have to accept. That during Socrates' time, there were also the sophists. And when I was talking about moral relativism and good and evil, that's what I'm talking about. With the sophists, they believe that the world is morally relative. And what that means is that they believe because there's no way of knowing right and wrong, that we ought to do what we will, what we desire. We should do whatever we want. There are no morals. Morals are a social convention and invention that was created, architect and engineered by um, people who have control and almost like a monopoly over morality. So, and they define morality culture. So basically, the Ring of Gyges is the myth that the Sophists, like I said, believing that everything is morally relative. We don't know what right is wrong, so we can do whatever we want. They have the classic book of Ring of Gyges, and what this is, you put this ring on and you become invisible. Very much similar to the Lord of the Rings series that came, much later. That was much later. So a few thousand or so. So yeah. Anyway, so this ring made you invisible. So it was the whole argument that if he wanted human nature to be evil or good, and the sophists say that a man that would have this ring would have no repercussion for doing evil, and they would do whatever they want. So they would do whatever they want, and they would have no consequence. They would steal, they would loot, they do whatever they can because they have no consequence. They're invisible because they believe that human nature was evil. That it's human nature that people would do this. Well, Socrates is arguing that this is not human nature in his own way. I mean, he has more arguments than that, but it gets complicated. But just simply put, that there's a dichotomy where Socrates believed that a virtuous human being was was ultimate good, and that truth is the ultimate good, and that there is no moral relative, and that there's objective truths. There's objectively right. What I mean by objective truth is real universal laws. That there's real universal, non-arbitrary laws in the universe that are established in stone. What I mean by arbitrary is that if something is arbitrary, that means there's no real connection between one concept and another, but it's invented by a human being. For example, the word word is arbitrary for meaning word. Why does the word word be a word? It's because we invented it. It's arbitrary. All of our language is arbitrary. So there's that arbitrary aspect. And so is human beings, are human beings good or evil? What is their nature? So I guess the point of this lecture is that there are universal rights and wrongs, and we have to create a world that we will to a universal law. We have maxims. So everything we do, we have to ask: would we wish to live in a world like this? Would we want to live in a world like this? So there's certain moral and deontological viewpoints where, as I've said before, deontological, we have duties as human beings to do the right thing. And so the question, the theme between the reading values is that do human beings do good because they need to do good so they don't have repercussions in society, or do they do good because they're genuine and inherently good? And I believe human beings are inherently good. Human beings look out for other people. Look at the maternal instinct. A mother takes care of her child. And it's that love, that same love, is the same humanly love, a little bit different, of course, that binds us all. That we are bound by unconditional love. I mean, that's how we're created by our Creator. And so we are inherently good, yet we can become corrupted. We can become confused with the rationale that we tell ourselves and the logic that we tell ourselves, that we justify a thing, even though we know in our heart they're wrong. In our brains, we justify them. Because when we justify them, it makes it seem like we're able to do it. And it's okay to do it. So it could be let's say I'm lying to my mother, right? I have a deontological duty to tell the truth to my mother. Even say honor my mother in the Ten Commandments. It's we'll take that for whatever validity that you choose. But listening to my mother, lying to my mother, is that the morally wrong thing to do? But what if, from a theological point of view, what if I tell a little white lie that it saves her some cardiovascular issues, like stress, Like that there's more benefits than good, consequential. Now I'm in a conundrum because if I tell a little white lie, that it's really the consequence is much better. But if I told her the truth, what if that truth would startle her? So that's the conundrum. That it's a balance between theologically and deontologically. That there's a balance that we have to look at the consequences of things. At the same time, we can't trick ourselves. We can't trick ourselves into justifying things. That there's certain universal laws that are right no matter what. And so if we all connect and agree with those universal laws, then we will become more powerful than ever. So we need to know right from wrong, that there's certain universal laws and that we can't trick ourselves. And that if I had a ring, I would do everything I could to save this world. And I guarantee you would too, because you're following this movement of an unconditional love for humanity. So I ask you, do the right thing. Is it objectively wrong or right to say something? What are the consequences of ghosting someone? But is it objectively right to ghost someone? Okay, and especially someone that you're invested in. So that's just an example that I use. I mean, to interesting example. So anyway, I want you to think about this, and I want you to maybe apply this to your real life and explore that, and really ask yourself and question reality. That is this is this the right thing to do? I mean, am I justifying? Is this really? Do I feel this in my heart? And so I guess we could say that you know the truth. You know what's right and wrong in your heart and in your intuition. That there are objective truths and objective rights and wrongs that are universal that build us to be a virtuous person. So this world about self growth and becoming a virtuous person to be the best we can and unlocking our potential. And guess what? If we follow our potential, what we believe, what we can achieve, we can do anything if we believe we're together. We can only do it together with the support of others, with the love of others, that we are infinite beings and our potential is infinite, and that we can do whatever we want. And so thank you so much for watching this video. And remember, what do you want? What do you want to do? What one or two options, three options, follow your heart, follow your intuition. And your intuition, it's not 100%, but it will not lie to you. It will not lie to you when you're aligned with the Holy Spirit. And that's what I'm saying. Illuminated by the Holy Spirit, using the Holy Spirit, invoking the Holy Spirit, dear Holy Spirit, to illuminate the truth. That is the only way. That is how I'm spot on, quote unquote, with all my healings. And I really hope you enjoy this video. And remember, what is right, what is wrong, you know, and we know. You are the best. You are helping us accomplish our unconditional love for humanity mission. And together, we are unstoppable. If we all do the right thing, which is having an unconditional love for humanity, if we all buy in, if we all buy into that vision, an unconditional love for humanity, we will be so powerful that nothing in the world can stop us. And believe that. And wish you a beautiful day and a early Merry Christmas. So, one more look at the cabin, Sean. Just want to get one more shot. So, see you later, guys.